Today I want to let you know what happens if you decide to bring your Omega in for an overhaul at an Omega boutique. The watch in question is an Omega Speedmaster Professional that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago. And the boutique that I brought it to is the one on 711 Fifth Avenue in New York City between 55th and 56th Street. Now, the primary reason for bringing the watch in for an overhaul is that there was a malfunction in the start, stop, and reset mechanism of the chronograph. The secondary reason is that the timekeeping was becoming a little erratic. It wasn't keeping very good time. It would be a little bit different every day, and it would be, I guess, more than acceptable positional deviations. In addition, it had all the usual scuff marks, especially on the case back from use and abuse. And the watch was pushing 10 years old, so I figured it was time to give it the spa treatment. I brought the watch in on May 7th, a Wednesday, a little bit after they opened, which was about 10:15 or so, 10:20 in the morning. I walked to the back of the store, walked up the stairs, and was greeted by the receptionist. After I indicated what I wanted to have done, she proceeded with the paperwork. And she also took out a loop to make an external examination of the watch, noting, all the things that you would expect. Scuff marks on the case, the bracelet, crystal. After she wrote the invoice, she said that Omega would get in touch with me within a few days for an estimate. But I asked her if I can wait there for an estimate. And she said as long as I didn't mind waiting, she would be able to give me an estimate then and there. So she disappeared into the back area, presumably the work area where all the watchmakers are, and came back about 15 minutes later. All the while I'm sitting there reading the latest Omega magazine and leaving through a journey through time. When she returned, she showed me some of the comments that some of the watchmakers' comments, and they were basically a reiteration of what she noted, scuff marks and everything. But in addition, he noted that the lubrication was dry and that there was a part missing from the movement. Presumably that part is responsible for the proper functioning of the start, stop, and reset mech. So I gave the go-ahead for the job, and she said it would take about 8 weeks to complete. Now I asked her if the work was going to be done on the premises, and she said that normally they would. However, because they're renovating, they will have to send it to one of their satellite service centers, either the one in Secaucus, New Jersey, or the one in Seattle. And when she said Secaucus, I wasn't too thrilled because Secaucus doesn't really have a good reputation. But she said we'll more than likely go to Seattle. Just to backtrack a little bit, what the renovation involves, they were in the process of moving the customer service area from the second floor to the ground floor. Okay. Now, before I left, she said that she would send me all the info via email, and I would get it sometime later that day, which I did. So a couple weeks goes by, or about maybe let's say about 8 weeks or so, or close to 8 weeks. So I decided to give Omega a call. I called them on June 28th, which is just a few days to the exact 8 weeks since I dropped it off, and they said it was ready to pick up and that it would be available in the store a few days later. I went in on July the 2nd, which was 8 weeks to the day that I dropped off the watch, to pick it up. The watch was returned to me in essentially pristine condition. It's almost like getting a new watch. All the scuff marks were gone, and various components of the watch were replaced. What you're looking at is presumably the stuff that was replaced, and these were the things that were returned to me. So let's take a look and see what they are. You've got the mainspring here, which they replaced. You got the gasket, crystal, spring bars, crown, the chronograph pusher array, and you've got the hands. Now, some of you are wondering why they would replace the hands, especially since I didn't request for it. Omega reserves the right to replace the hands if they feel that is aesthetically more acceptable. But I'm going to go under the assumption that if you have an older watch that has some nice patina on the hands, I think you could probably request that they not replace it. But, I didn't mind. I mean, I'm paying for this service anyway, so why not get new hands? Now, the pushers and the crown are replaced, presumably for water resistance purposes. I guess you can't waterproof a crown, make a crown water resistant without actually replacing it. Or if you didn't replace it, placing a gasket inside would probably be very, very tedious. So the standard policy is just to replace the buttons in the crown. Now, in addition to these parts, I was also given a performance card. You see some of the stats. Average rate plus 7 seconds a day, more like plus 4 to 4.5 on the wrist. This is the watchmaker who serviced the watch, the quality insurance person, date when this work was done, and these are presumably water resistance tests. So that's the performance card. I was also given this Omega traveling pouch. And I left the store with a pretty Omega bag, like so. I'll fold up the bag to see what it looks like. It's a bag, okay, it says Omega on it. Nice red color, okay. Now the grand total worked out to $710 plus New York State tax for a grand total of $773.01. On the surface, this seems like a lot of money, but in comparison to what other companies charge, it's not terribly expensive. It is a chronograph. It's done by Omega itself. You have a lot of things replaced that an independent may or may not replace. So it's not terribly expensive. Now, in my case, this is probably going to be the only overhaul this watch will ever have. I generally take good care of my watches, and I rotate between many watches, so the watch doesn't get overly abused. So this might be the last overhaul, the first and last overhaul it ever gets. The overhaul comes also with a 24-month warranty on the work, so that does give one peace of mind. Now, just for the record, I have other Omegas that I have not brought to Omega to have service. I have a vintage Constellation that I let my local guy do, and he did a great job. And I also have an Omega with a bumper movement from the 1940s that my local guy also did, and did a very good job on. Okay? But the Speedmaster Professional has a special place in my heart, and I really wanted to give what I thought was the best treatment possible. And personally, I think that if you bring it to an independent, they can never restore the case to factory specs. They can probably do a very good job, but it's just my feeling. I don't know if there's any truth to this. They can never restore the case to factory specs. So I hope you found this video helpful. So I can say that you could bring your Omega to this Fifth Avenue boutique with great confidence. I had a very, very good experience. The people are very, very polite. It's very low pressure there. You got lots of nice watches to look at. And also, there are lots of watch boutiques on the area. Breguet is right next to them. There's a Tag Heuer boutique that opened earlier this year, just on the same block, a little bit further down. Wempy's on the corner of 55th and 5th. I think Seiko is, well, I'm not sure where Seiko is, but there's a lot of watch places, the watch boutiques, watch stores close by. So if you're ever in town, at the very least, just go into the boutique and take a look, okay? I hope you found this video helpful, and I look forward to all your comments and your viewership. Thank you very much. Recommend my channel to all your watch pals, okay? Thank you so much now. See you next time.